It is now Tuesday morning, and on this Friday I leave for Ecuador. There is quite a bit of work left to do before leaving, but I'm making progress. Here's what I did this morning. One of the things that I want to do during this trip is try to tell the story of the year that I spent in Ecuador a decade ago. Share a bit about what that year was like and how that year impacted the last 10 years of my life, because I would guess that that 1 year, those 12 months, were probably the most impactful 12 months of my life. So I spent some time this morning trying to map that out a little bit, getting down some of the stories that I would like to tell about that year. And what's fun about that is that I'm realizing there are specific locations within Quito that I would like to revisit, locations where I spent a decent amount of time during that year in Ecuador, so that I can be at that place 10 years later while I'm telling the story about what happened there 10 years ago. So as I'm thinking about how I want to tell this story, it's helping me to plan out at least part of my trip, part of the time that I will spend there, which is kind of nice. Another thing that I will be working on while I'm in Ecuador and while I'm getting there and coming back is taking the first draft of the Learn in Public workbook, editing it, illustrating it, and designing it so that I can publish it maybe while I'm there, but probably when I get back. So what I'm also trying to think about related to this telling the story of my time in Ecuador is also telling a little bit about what's happened since then, between the time of that trip and where I am now, and how some of the things that I'm doing are a result of that time in Ecuador. So I'm trying to tie in the development of this new thing that I'm making to the time that I spent in Ecuador, because that's another major part of this trip as well, that I'm going to be working on this thing during all of this time that I will be traveling and in Quito. So I started mapping out a little bit of that as well, trying to get some of the themes down, seeing what sort of connections I might be able to make between my current work and my current life and where I was 10 years ago. I also spent a little bit of time this morning mapping out how I'm specifically going to go about that editing, illustrating, and designing of the Learn in Public workbook. And rather than going into too much detail into that right now, I've decided that I'm going to make another episode for the Learn in Public series, kind of as a follow-up to the last one I did, which was essentially announcing the Learn in Public workbook. I'm going to do a follow-up that's going to describe in detail the edit, how I'm going to go about taking the first written draft and crafting it into something that hopefully is useful right out of the gate. So I now have a number of videos to at least record before I head out on Friday. 2 freelance videos, a video for Verbal to Visual, that video for the Learn in Public series, plus these vlogs. Sounds like a lot, but I think I can do it. I'm gonna go get some lunch now and tackle some email. The rain and the cold are back, but that's not gonna stop me from getting a run in today. Plus it stopped raining. And I wanna try out this GoPro. Let's do it. All right, I'm gonna turn around now. Good run so far, kind of weird recording it though. So that turned out better than I expected. Definitely gonna have to find a way to use that GoPro in Ecuador. So here's where we're at. Over lunch, I was able to work through all of my email. After lunch, I recorded 2 videos. One for Learn in Public that looked like this. Another for Verbal to Visual that looked like this. If I can get both of those edited this afternoon and evening, then I will be in really good shape. So that's what I'm gonna turn to now. I'm off now to get some food and to edit 3 videos tonight. 1, 2, and 3. Good night.